Hey guys, what's up? So I finally have electricity again. It's amazing. I don't have to walk around with candles and a flashlight anymore. So yeah, I totally survived a tornado through my street, through my neighborhood this past Sunday, and here's my story. But first, the intro. So I guess the first part is you guys should know my background going into it, how I felt, my mentality before. My friend wakes me up early in the morning and is like, "All right, Peter, I got some tickets to this NHRS, which is a drag show race." So I was like, "Oh man, I didn't sleep that well. Maybe I was a little dehydrated." And I was like, "Okay, let's go." There I was. We went and we were out in the sun. And he was teaching, him and his family were there, and they were teaching me all about drag races. Extremely fun. So then we came back, and I got home around 7 o'clock. So I was super tired. Even the last 2 hours at the drag race show, we were both yawning and just super tired, heads down, like that. But it was still fun. It was a new experience for me. And I get home around 7 o'clock, and I am dead. I'm dead tired. I take off my clothes. I'm just in my boxers. I jump into bed, pass out. So then around 9 o'clock, my dad calls me and is like, "Hey, Peter, there's a tornado, warning. Are you okay? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't remember the sirens going off at this point, but I remember being like, okay, I'm fine. It's okay. Everything's good. The house is okay." And he's like, "Okay, well, be careful. You know what to do." So I hang up, and all of a sudden I notice that the sirens are going off, and I got the alert. And it was like, "Tornado in your area, I'll never forget this, seek shelter now." And this comes back later. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm still just getting back together. I was like, I think I used the bathroom. And then I went back to my room, and the wind started picking up like crazy. Now, I've experienced extreme winds before. They were never tornadoes, though. And I was standing in my room. I remember I was facing the window, and my blinds were closed, though, but I could hear stuff. It sounded like hail. I could hear stuff hitting the window, and I was like, uh-oh. Like this is serious. Something's about to go down. So there I am. So I grab a shirt, and I put it on, and I'm like, okay, I really got to stay calm, collected, and cool during this, whatever's going to happen, Because I don't have control over the tornado. I'm always telling myself that, whatever happens, I can do whatever, the best I can. So I was like, give me 10 seconds to figure out what I need before I go downstairs and hide. So I'm upstairs. I'm standing in the middle of my room, and I'm like, okay, what do I need? And I'm counting down 10 seconds in my head before I need to go run downstairs and take shelter. And I'm like, 10, 9, and I'm like, okay, flashlight or a battery pack for my cell phone, because my cell phone was at 1%. And I was like, okay, anything happens, I'll probably need my cell phone battery pack, or I'll need my charger. But then the wind started picking up like crazy. Just the entire time, the winds kept continually increasing and getting worse. So I was like, I don't have time for any of this. I don't have time for a flashlight. I don't have time for a battery pack. I don't have time to grab pants. I ran downstairs, and I was going to pull a Harry Potter and just hide under the cupboard. So then I opened the cupboard, and I see that it's stuffed with Christmas stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I was like, there's no time for me to take out all the stuff and hide in here. So I jump across the hallway into the bathroom. I lock the door, and I'm thinking, that's not gonna help, locking the door. Tornado's not gonna care if my door's locked, Tornado's extremely powerful. And so I lock the door, and I'm standing in my bathroom. I just eventually sit down next to the toilet on the floor. The other things that happened too is that my ears popped at some point. I remember hearing my ears popped, and I'm like, hey, I think that means there's a tornado here. I sit down next to the toilet, and I'm thinking, okay, what is there anything I can do? I remember sending a text to my friend right before my phone died, being like, oh man, this storm going by is really, really intense. And then the wind, okay, imagine this. I was in the middle of the house, and I could hear this. I can hear stuff crashing outside, really intense stuff. The wind was incredible. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that in my life. I could hear rumbling, I guess, in the street. You have to remember, at this point, there was no power. Even when I was upstairs, there was already no power. And I was like, okay, I gotta stay calm, think things through. I remember sending that text, and then my phone died, and I was like, well, I'm gonna die. This is it. I could hear something crash, and I assumed it was the garage just being flown away or something. And I just remember being like, oh my god, like, okay, like, this is how it's gonna end, you know, there's nothing I can do. I'm just gonna, you know, die like this. And I remember trying to think about as much as I could about tornadoes, what I learned in my past experiences. And I remember, I think one of the things that I thought about was that I had, when I was in third grade and I moved to Texas, my teacher talked about how he was in a tornado and the tornado took off his entire roof and he survived with his mom. I still remember that, and that was forever ago. And then I was like, okay, well, I didn't learn anything from that story, and I was like, okay, like tornado shelter, whatever. What can I do? And there was nothing in the bathroom. My phone was dead, so I'm just sitting there in my boxers, being like, all right, like. And I was thinking about the movie Twister, and I was like, I remember that scene where they, like, I think they tie themselves with a belt to something, and they anchor themselves with it, and I was just like, oh man, this is the one time I was like, if I had pants on, maybe I would have had a belt, and I would survive this tornado. So I was just like, all right, there's nothing I can do. And I was thinking, I was like, well, if the tornado does, like, blow by, like, should I, like, try holding on to something? And I was just, like, next to the toilet. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, grab onto the toilet? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the only thing I can do. I don't know how heavy toilets are. They seem pretty sturdy. So I was just sitting there, and I was like, okay. So I thought I was going to die. I was like, I just started laughing because I was like, right, I mean, this is how I go. There's absolutely nothing I can do. If it takes me, it takes me, like. And I remember laughing, and I remember laughing. I'm like, maybe I'm crazy. I was like, no, I'm not crazy. You know, I've lived a really happy, fulfilling life. So I was like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Like everything's gonna be great. You have to remember, during this entire time, you can just hear stuff increasingly crashing, and it's like the house is being bombarded by like some crazy hail, but it's not hail. Like it's just debris. So then eventually it stopped, and I was like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. But in my head, I was like, maybe it's not over, you know? Like, this was scary. I was still, like, you know, really high adrenaline. I was like, maybe it hasn't passed yet. So I waited, like, a couple more minutes. And then I was like, oh, okay, like, what do I need to do now? So I open up the bathroom door. And I step outside the bathroom door. And immediately I'm walking just to go look outside the window, make sure everything was okay. And I realized I was walking on like dust and like just all sorts of debris. And I was like, that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I think the tornado passed through here. And I went to the door. I was like, how did all these leaves get in? Like, what happened? And I ran to the door, and the door was still locked closed. And I was like, then how did all this debris get in? So I was looking around to see if there was any like structural damage. This is on the first floor. And I'm like, no, there's nothing. And so the first thing I did is I ran upstairs. I grabbed my battery pack. My battery pack was in another room. And I set my phone to charge. And I'm so thankful that for whatever reason on Friday, I was like, oh, I should probably charge my battery pack. And my battery pack carries 4 complete charges. And I just had it completely charged, and I was so happy. And the first thing I did was call my dad, and I was like, hey, like, Dad, super bad news. I think the tornado came through here. And he's like, okay, well, you know, you're fine, you know, everything's good. And I was like, yeah, I think so. And you have to remember, I haven't walked around the house yet. And he's like, okay, just go check the windows, make sure everything's okay. And I'm like, Dad, like, there's debris inside the house. I don't get how it came in, whatever. And he's like, okay, check the windows, you know, call me back. As long as you're safe, the house is fine, whatever. And I was like, okay. So I'm letting my phone charge. I'm walking around the house. And I go to the back door, too. And I realize there's a bunch of debris on the floor, too. And it's just, like, really dusty. And there's all this random crap and, like, dirt. And I'm just checking all the windows, make sure none of the windows had burst. And I'm still confused about all these leaves. And later did I notice, I was like, oh, my gosh. The tornado was so strong that it blew, like, leaves, like probably like this big, around the door, and it blew all this dust and stuff from around the door inside the house. And you have to remember, I'm in the center, and the front door was pretty far away. For it to have blown all that stuff in, and I was just like, okay, this is really crazy. This is really intense. I went upstairs, and I couldn't really. Remember, the power's completely out. It's completely dark outside. So I'm trying to peer through my window to see what's going on. I put on some shorts, and I grabbed my shoes, which I'd actually thankfully left inside. And I'm like, okay, I gotta see what's going on. And so I open the front door because I'm trying to see. I'm still confused about the debris because I'm just like, how is there debris? So much debris inside the house. And I open the front door and I just noticed there's just like a pile of debris that had just like accumulated in front of the door. So I like kick that away, and I'm starting to walk through the driveway, and I'm just like, oh crap, like this is really, really serious. The tornado passed through here for sure. The other thing that I noticed too was I was walking around, and there were like just piles of debris like accumulated against the walls and stuff around the house, especially in any kind of nooks. And there was a pile of debris behind. I have a old '91 Crown Victoria, and within that debris there was I guess there's a squirrel that lived behind my house. I would see him all the time for a while. He was just laying on the debris, and he was still breathing, like heavy breathing, and he was really messed up. And I was like, okay, like I'm like, this squirrel's not gonna make it. There's nothing I can do for him. So then I go to the backyard, and there's a huge, it must have been like a 7-8 foot long pole just like sitting in the backyard. We have a cover for our grill, and the tornado somehow like, and it straps down around the grill. The tornado unstrapped the cover and blew it up against the fence. So we actually didn't lose the cover, but I'm guessing what happened is that the cover snagged on the tree, and then the tree fell down on top of it. I mean, there was also like a huge plank of wood, and there's crazy amount of debris, tiles, and you have to remember it's dark, so I still couldn't have seen everything. I was just using my cell phone flashlight to film what was on the floor. I took like Instagram videos, and thankfully I did. It was later on, after I came back inside the house, and I was just sitting on the couch, and I was just like, holy crap, like this was really insane. It really, I don't think it hit me yet, but the scope after I saw that pole in the backyard, because I was like, oh my god, like that's crazy. It moved this pole and put it in the backyard. I was like, that's really intense. One of the neighbor from across the street came running over. I could hear him knocking super. He's like, hey, Peter, are you okay? Is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, like, are you okay? And he's like, dude, the tornado took out one of the neighbors' roofs. They don't have a roof anymore. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, look to your right. And then that's when I noticed, I had walked past my driveway and I actually saw the street. And that's when I noticed, I was like, oh, because there were probably like three-story trees just completely on the road. And I was like, oh man, like this is really serious. And I had parked my car in front of the house. And then that's when I was like, oh my god. There was a small piece of wood, probably about like this big, plank of wood, and it had obliterated the grill and like went completely through to where the engine parts were. I guess there was a filter there. And then I was walking around the car, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sucks. And there were like chimney, like I think the biggest amount of debris is that there were just like chimney and roof stuff everywhere. And you have to remember the air too was like super, super dusty. I guess just attics and roofs just have a lot of dust, carry a lot of dust. Actually, I'm still coughing, actually, 1 week after because of that. I go over, and I also see I'm looking at my truck. Like, the tornado took out my side mirror. Like, I walked down the street and stuff, and I didn't find my side mirror on a truck. So if you guys find a side mirror somewhere in Dallas, it belongs to my truck. And I ran over to my neighbor's house, and their roof was completely gone. They were just standing at their window, and they were like, I was like, hey, are you guys okay? And the mom was trying to stay calm, I think, but she was pretty frazzled, and they couldn't find their cat. They found their cat later. Just as sometimes you guys get really emotional. They found their cat later, but they told me they had to be that their roof collapsed while they were inside. Like, their second floor collapsed while they were inside, and they had to call the firemen to extract them from inside because there were like live wires and stuff, and their front door they couldn't get through their front door because there was just so much debris. So I felt bad for them. I was walking around the neighborhood as much as I can, and I'll probably post videos and comment on them later about what I was thinking when I was walking through. Like entire brick walls were just down. There were pieces of my neighbor's roofs that just weren't there anymore. Like just like it was really crazy. And then my neighbor was like, "Hey Peter, like check this out." There's probably like a huge plank of wood, probably like a 2x4, and it was just lodged into one of our other neighbor's roof. It was like real destruction. It was just like how you see when you watch the news and see tornado destruction. The house that got its roof taken off, the neighbor to that right, his entire back part was gone. Like gone. Like so at that point we were thinking, okay, like that these two houses got direct hits. I mean, they got like tornado path, and I'll post it here so you guys can see the tornado path. And it was too dark to see, but actually so behind those two houses is the school, and that school complete, like total loss. That school won't exist anymore. And behind that school, in that area, there's a supermarket, my supermarket. But the cleanup effort is super organized. And I think I have to be super thankful that everything happened so fast. So the next day, already in the morning, knocks on the door. People, roofing guys, cleanup crews, knocking on the door, giving me their card. Hey, like, we do this, we clean up, we can clear your yard right now. So we had a tree guy come and take care of all the branches, a roofing guy. So there's holes all over the roof, which sucked too, because in the night before, I'm gonna mention this in the first story, it rained at probably around 2 or 3 a.m. and there are holes in the roof. So there's water. I think we use like over 10, 12 buckets, every single bucket in the house, every single trash can in the house, to cover leaks, every single towel in the house too. It's just pouring through the roof. And everyone knows that there was going to be a rainstorm on Thursday. So basically it's a race against time for my neighborhood to get everything cleaned up as soon as possible before the thunderstorm or the rainstorm on Thursday. So the first thing they got to do though is clear the roads of all the trees and debris so that the other, like utilities people, the roofing people, whatever, can come in and drive in. I mean, the tornado was on Sunday night. It took until Wednesday that the residential road was cleared enough for the tow truck to come in and tow away the truck. Just to give you guys a heads up on how fast. And this is them working basically 24 hours. The utilities people were working 24 hours. We didn't get electricity until Friday. And it's been 1 week, and I think the two streets behind me still don't have electricity because the traffic lights, they have these I've never seen these before. They're just like temporary traffic lights that just fold out and they use. And I haven't seen light on those streets either. So, and one of the worst things is that the main roads were completely closed. We went out to buy a generator so we can we can charge a mini fridge and use the microwave to heat up food and stuff. And they were like, "Oh, we don't care. Like, just you can't be turning in." So we had to take like crazy detours, almost a different detour every single day, as they were clearing up roads just to get back to the house. Insurance people, it's a lot of insurance calls. Even right now, they're still trying to clear up all the debris and trees, and it's been 1 week. What they do is that the first day they have these guys come in with these chainsaws, and they just start cutting down the debris and stuff into smaller pieces that they load into a truck, and they, I don't know, cart it away somewhere, trash. They cut down the trees. The community was amazing. I have to really be thankful for the neighbors we had, and so that first street helped out the second street. I think even on that first week there was a neighbor who had a generator, and he would just, he had like coffee and stuff for whoever needed it. The neighbor whose roof got taken away. So the two houses that got destroyed, one of them was in Europe, and he got contacted. I think he had just woken up, and they were like, "Hey, like our neighbors contacted him and were like, hey, like, look, your house got destroyed in a tornado." The other house, they had volunteers come in and try to empty out the house as much as they can so that they could demolish the house before Thursday. So they basically had three days to empty out the house and demolish the house. My backyard's neighbors One of them was a total loss. They demolished the house. I don't know those neighbors because there's a huge fence in between, and there's like a little alleyway there. The neighbor directly behind us, their window was burst, and I think their chimney fell down too. And they patched that up. The second thing after they cleared the roads is that the roofing guys came in and just put these huge tarps over the roofs so that when it would rain on Thursday, it wouldn't have to, get inside the house and it would do less damage. So there was just repairmen, repair trucks, utility guys, utility trucks, just everywhere around the neighborhood until at least Thursday. And then Friday it started clearing up a little bit. There's still a bunch of repairmen, especially for the houses where they lost their fencing. They put up these huge metal fences, these temporary metal fences, and these metal gates. Because the power was out, the community, the HOA association, hired a security patrol car, just drives around, knows everybody's car. Yeah, even with tornado, guys, I still made it to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It was amazing because I could charge my stuff at the gym while I was working out. And I'm so thankful and grateful that I made it alive, and I'm so grateful that I have no idea how this is possible. No one died in Dallas. Like, with the damage and destruction that I saw with my neighbors and their neighbors' houses and the school and the supermarket next to me, like, it's really crazy to me that that there wasn't more destruction. Like, it's super crazy to me, and you got to really count your blessings. And honestly, my house is probably the luckiest one on the street too. We didn't have any crazy burst windows. We only had one window burst, and there were just a couple holes in the roof. It puts you in perspective of how lucky you are, because honestly, not even having electricity, we still don't even have internet service here. Like, if I upload this, I'm probably uploading it at the gym. And I have a friend, and her house was a complete loss. Like, when she showed me a photo, like, her living room wall was gone. So thanks for all the good luck I gotten in life. I'm really happy with that. Another thing too is that there was structural damage to the house. So, like how I mentioned the garage, I felt like stuff was hitting the garage. That side of the house, the door, there's like 2 or 3 doors that don't close. Like, the door frames, I guess, are warped because of the tornado, and they don't close properly. So we got to get that fixed. There's a ton of water damage from the rain that got in. So hopefully these things aren't things that you have to ever go through. I think the one thing that also sticks with me, besides the stepping on the leaves as soon as I opened up the bathroom door, is that sucking sound. Like, there was just this huge, like super loud vacuum sound that just was continual throughout the entire tornado. And I can't even get that out of my head. And I think just, man, seeing the destruction right after, around, I guess, 11 midnight, that was really intense. I was by myself too, but yeah, it was just weird because I think it was very hard. It took me a while to understand how much destruction the tornado did, especially like the next morning when there was finally sunlight. You can see, like, I'll post pictures here. You can see, like, shards, like, everywhere, shards of, like, tile stuck through the fence, like, sliced through the fence. So that's it, guys. If you actually made it to the end, comment a tornado emoji. My last piece of advice, and this is the last thing I will say, because honestly, I wish I had reacted faster, even if it was 30 seconds fast. Even if it was 30 seconds faster. This is how fast things happened with a tornado. As soon as you get that alert and it says take shelter now, you run. You do everything you can to get to where you need to be safe. I'm super happy that I reacted the way that I did. So yeah, guys, thanks for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you take note if you're ever in a bad situation. And I'm super thankful for just being alive. Honestly, I really thought I was going to die. And I can't imagine how others felt in the same situation. Maybe because I was alone. Maybe because I was just unprepared. It really came out of nowhere. Maybe it's because I was dehydrated and my phone was dead. I have no idea. Anyway, guys, thanks. Peace.